Sometimes the people who hurt you most are the ones you would move mountains for. I am sitting in my small office in Denver, Colorado, looking out at the winter snow, holding a text from my mom asking why I was not invited to our family Christmas dinner. My name is Bryson. I am 32 years old, and I work as a software engineer. I have always been the one who helped my family, especially my older brother Derek, who is 3 years my senior. We grew up incredibly close, sharing everything from childhood dreams to adult struggles. Derek has a wife named Amanda and 2 beautiful children, Jake, who is 8, and Emma, who is 6. But one sentence changed everything between us. Before I tell you what happened, drop a comment and let me know where you are watching from. Hit that subscribe button, because this story about family betrayal will show you why sometimes walking away is the strongest thing you can do. The notification bell will make sure you never miss stories like this one that might just change how you see your own relationships. Now, let me take you back to where it all started. Derek and I grew up in a modest household in Ohio, where our parents worked double shifts just to keep food on the table and a roof over our heads. Money was always tight, but love was abundant. Derek was my protector throughout elementary and middle school, standing up to bullies who thought they could pick on his little brother. We shared a tiny bedroom with bunk beds, and during those long summer nights, we would whisper about our dreams and plans for the future. Derek helped me with math homework when I struggled, and I helped him write essays when words did not come easily to him. As we entered adulthood, our paths diverged significantly. Derek chose the entrepreneurial route, always chasing the next big business opportunity, while I decided to pursue a more traditional career in technology. His first startup failed spectacularly in 2018, leaving him with debt and broken dreams. He bounced between different sales jobs, never quite finding his footing in any industry. Meanwhile, my career in software development was steadily climbing. I started at $65,000 a year, fresh out of college, and worked my way up to $120,000 over 5 years through dedication and continuous learning. Derek met Amanda in 2019, and they had a whirlwind romance that led to marriage within 8 months. Soon after, they welcomed Jake, followed by Emma 2 years later. While I was genuinely happy for my brother, I could see the financial pressure mounting on his young family. Derek was struggling to find stable employment, and Amanda had to leave her nursing job to care for their newborn son. The first time Derek asked for help was in 2020. He called me late one evening, his voice shaky with embarrassment. He needed $2,000 to cover rent after losing another sales position. Without hesitation, I transferred the money and told him to consider it a gift, not a loan. I could hear the relief in his voice, and it made me feel good to be able to help my brother during his difficult time. What started as a one-time emergency assistance gradually became a regular occurrence. Derek would call every few weeks with different needs: $500 for groceries one month, $800 for Emma's preschool tuition the next. When their car broke down, I covered the $1,200 repair bill without question. Over the course of 3 years, I calculated that I had provided approximately $18,000 in various forms of support to Derek's family. I genuinely felt happy about being able to help them. Seeing Jake and Emma grow up healthy and happy, knowing that my financial contributions were making their childhood more stable, gave me a deep sense of purpose. I was the bachelor uncle who could afford to be generous, and I wore that role with pride. But looking back now, I realize I started noticing subtle changes in Derek's demeanor that I chose to ignore. The first red flag appeared gradually over several months. Derek's gratitude began to feel forced and mechanical. Where he once would call to thank me profusely and update me on how the money helped, his acknowledgments became shorter and less enthusiastic. Sometimes he seemed almost irritated when he had to ask for help, as if my assistance was somehow an inconvenience rather than a blessing. I brushed off these concerns, telling myself that Derek was just stressed about his financial situation and probably felt embarrassed about needing help. the end of 2023 brought what seemed like a turning point. Derek landed a position with a reputable insurance company offering $55,000 annually plus benefits. For the first time in years, he had stable employment with growth potential. His entire attitude shifted almost overnight. He became more confident in family conversations, shared less about his struggles, and contacted me far less frequently. I was thrilled for him, believing that my brother had finally found his footing and could stand independently. During our family gathering for New Year's 2024, the atmosphere felt warm and celebratory. Derek surprised me with an expensive watch, saying it was his way of thanking me for all the support over the years. We spent hours talking about his new job, his plans for advancing within the company, and his hopes for providing better opportunities for Jake and Emma. I felt like our relationship had returned to its natural, healthy state, where we were simply brothers who cared for each other rather than benefactor and dependent. The spring and early summer of 2024 were some of the best months Derek and I had shared in years. In June, we celebrated Emma's 6th birthday with a backyard party at his house. I brought carefully chosen gifts, a $150 Lego set for Emma, and a $200 tablet for Jake to help with his schoolwork. Amanda had prepared a beautiful spread of food, and the children were laughing and playing in their backyard. Derek introduced me to his friends, as his successful little brother and I could hear genuine pride in his voice, rather than the resentment I had sometimes detected before. That afternoon, I spent hours playing catch with Jake and helping Emma build her new Lego castle. Watching my brother interact with his children, seeing how relaxed and confident he had become since securing steady employment, filled me with joy. This was the Derek I remembered from our childhood. Funny, warm, and genuinely happy. I thought we had successfully navigated through his difficult financial period and emerged stronger as a family. In July, I received my own career milestone when I was promoted to senior software engineer. My salary increased to $140,000, and I received a $15,000 signing bonus. When I called Derek to share the good news, his congratulations felt sincere, though I noticed his tone was somewhat flat. I was too excited about my new responsibilities to pay much attention to his subdued response. Then came the phone call in August that should have been a clearer warning sign. Derek contacted me, requesting $3,000 for Jake's school expenses. However, something fundamental had changed in how he approached the conversation. Instead of the apologetic, grateful tone I had grown accustomed to, Derek spoke with a demanding directness that caught me off guard. His words were clipped and businesslike. "Just send it to my account. I will pay you back when I can." There was no detailed explanation of the expenses, no expressions of gratitude, and no acknowledgement of the significant amount he was requesting. I transferred the money as always, but for the first time, I felt genuinely uncomfortable about our dynamic. When Derek did not send even a brief thank you message, I knew something had shifted in his perception of our relationship. The brother who once called to express heartfelt appreciation had been replaced by someone who seemed to view my financial support as an obligation rather than a gift. September 15th will forever be etched in my memory as the night everything fell apart. I had purchased a birthday gift for Amanda, whose special day was approaching in a week, and I decided to surprise her by dropping it off unannounced. Derek and I had always had an open-door policy with each other's homes, so I used my spare key and walked in expecting to find the family having a quiet evening together. Instead, I heard loud laughter and conversation coming from the living room. Derek was hosting 4 or 5 friends from his new job, and they were having drinks and sharing stories about work. I was about to announce my presence when I heard Derek's voice cutting through the chatter with words that stopped me cold in the doorway. "My brother keeps sending money like I am some charity case," Derek said, his voice carrying a tone of annoyance I had never heard him use when talking about me. His friends chuckled, encouraging him to continue. "Honestly, I am tired of his pity. There is no place for losers in my house anymore." The group erupted in laughter, and Derek seemed to bask in their approval of his cruel joke. I stood frozen in the entryway, feeling like someone had punched me directly in the stomach. The word losers echoed in my mind as I tried to process what I had just heard. This was my brother, the person I had supported through his darkest financial moments, referring to me as a loser for caring about his family's well-being. The betrayal cut deeper than any romantic breakup I had ever experienced. Derek finally noticed me standing there, and his face flushed bright red with embarrassment. But instead of apologizing or trying to explain, he just stared at me with a mixture of defiance and shame. His friends fell silent, sensing the tension that had suddenly filled the room. Losers, I managed to say, my voice barely above a whisper. Is that what you think I am? Derek straightened up, clearly trying to maintain his composure in front of his colleagues. Come on, do not be dramatic. I was just talking. Just talking, I repeated, feeling anger building in my chest. You called me a loser for helping your family. Look, I appreciate the help, but I do not need you acting like you are better than me, Derek replied, his voice growing defensive as his friends watched our confrontation unfold. The accusation hit me like a second blow. Better than you? I have been supporting your family for 3 years because I love you. I never once thought I was better than anyone. Nobody asked you to. Derek shot back. That was your choice. At that moment, Jake and Emma came running down the stairs, having heard familiar voices. They wrapped their little arms around my legs, and Jake looked up at me with his bright eyes, asking, Uncle Bryson, did you bring us something? Looking down at those innocent faces, while their father stood just feet away, having called me a loser in front of strangers, I felt my heart shatter into a million pieces. These children loved me unconditionally, and I had been supporting their well-being out of pure love, only to discover that their father viewed my generosity as some kind of pathetic charity. Amanda appeared from the kitchen, immediately sensing the thick tension in the room. Derek looked at his children and said firmly, Kids, go upstairs. Uncle Bryson was just leaving. Emma's face scrunched up in confusion, but Daddy Uncle Bryson always stays for dinner. Not tonight, sweetheart, Derek replied, his tone leaving no room for argument. I gently hugged both children and told them I would see them soon, though I honestly did not know if that was true. Standing up, I placed Amanda's birthday gift on the coffee table and looked directly at my brother. You are right, Derek. There is no place for losers. I will see myself out. I drove home in complete silence, my mind racing through every interaction Derek and I had shared over the past 3 years. The hurt was transforming into something else, a clear, cold determination. That night, I sent Derek a brief but definitive text message, effective immediately. I am ending all financial support. I immediately canceled the automatic $500 monthly transfer I had set up for his grocery expenses and removed his family from my budget planning spreadsheet. The next morning, I composed a respectful email to Amanda explaining my decision. I made it clear that my issue was solely with Derek's attitude and that I harbored no ill feelings toward her or the children. I explained that I needed to step back from providing financial assistance, but hoped we could maintain our family relationship in other ways. Derek's response came within hours. A furious phone call where he demanded to know how I could just cut them off like that. I remained calm and simply repeated his own words back to him. You said, there is no place for losers. I am respecting that boundary. When he accused me of being childish and dramatic, I replied, I am being realistic. You clearly do not need a loser's help. Derek hung up on me, and later that evening, I received a half-hearted apology text that felt more like damage control than genuine remorse. With the extra $1,000 per month, I was no longer sending to Derek. I began investing in myself in ways I had not done in years. I enrolled in the guitar lessons I had been postponing, booked a weekend trip to Portland, Oregon, and started joining my coworkers for after-work activities. For the first time in a long time, I was living for myself rather than constantly worrying about my brother's next financial crisis. The freedom was intoxicating. I realized how much mental energy I had been devoting to Derek's problems and how little I had been focusing on my own happiness and growth. I started dating again, joined a hiking group, and even began considering purchasing my own home instead of continuing to rent while supporting my brother's mortgage payments. December arrived with an unexpected phone call from my mother. She was finalizing details for our traditional family Christmas dinner and asked what dish I wanted to contribute this year. When I told her I had not received an invitation, there was a long pause on the other end of the line. Mom explained that Derek had told her I was too busy with work to attend and had declined the invitation on my behalf. I gently explained the real story behind our estrangement, sharing the details of that September evening and Derek's hurtful comments. My mother was devastated to learn about the conflict and disappointed in Derek's behavior, but she felt caught in the middle and did not want to force the situation. I assured her that I understood her difficult position and suggested I would visit her separately during the holiday season. Christmas Day arrived, and while I spent it peacefully with friends from work, I could not help but think about Jake and Emma opening presents without their Uncle Bryson there. The sadness was real, but so was the sense of self-respect I had gained by refusing to accept disrespectful treatment, even from family. January brought unexpected developments that would test my resolve. Derek was laid off from his insurance job as part of company-wide budget cuts. The stable income he had enjoyed for barely over a year was suddenly gone, and his family was facing immediate financial hardship. Amanda called me in tears, explaining that they might lose their house if Derek could not find work quickly. Their savings account was empty, their credit cards were maxed out, and they had no safety net. When Derek finally swallowed his pride and called me, his voice was shaking with desperation and shame. "I know I messed up," he began. "Can we talk?" Despite everything that had happened, hearing my brother sound so broken stirred something deep inside me. I agreed to meet him at a neutral location, a coffee shop halfway between our homes. The man who walked into that coffee shop barely resembled the confident brother who had called me a loser just 4 months earlier. Derek looked exhausted with dark circles under his eyes and clothes that seemed to hang loosely on his shrinking frame. He had lost weight from stress, and his usual swagger had been replaced by the hunched posture of someone carrying an enormous burden. "I called you a loser when you are the strongest person I know." Derek began, his voice cracking with emotion. "I owe you an explanation, and I owe you an apology that actually means something." He went on to describe the complex emotions he had been wrestling with during the years I supported his family. While he was grateful for my help, he also felt deeply ashamed about needing it. Every month, when my money appeared in his account, it reminded him that he was failing as a provider and as a man. I felt like less of a man, less of a father. Derek continued, tears forming in his eyes. When my friends talked about supporting their families, I felt like a fraud because my little brother was paying for my children's needs. He explained that his cruel comments that September night came from a place of deep insecurity and self-hatred rather than actual feelings about me. "I pushed you away because I was ashamed of needing you, and it was easier to make you the problem than face my own failures." I listened without interrupting, feeling my anger slowly transform into understanding. The hurt was still there, but I could see how Derek's pride had been eating away at him for years. However, understanding his motivations did not automatically repair the damage that had been done to our relationship. "I forgive you," I told him, "but things cannot go back to how they were." I explained that I was willing to help him rebuild his life, but our relationship needed new boundaries and mutual respect. Instead of simply handing over money whenever he asked, I proposed a different approach. I would help him develop job search strategies, review his resume, and practice interview skills. I offered to cover 50% of any professional development courses that could improve his employability, but he would need to demonstrate commitment by paying the other half. "I will help you build your independence, not enable dependency," I explained. Derek nodded eagerly, seeming to understand that this new arrangement would ultimately be better for both of us and for his family's long-term stability. Over the following 2 months, Derek threw himself into job hunting with renewed determination. I helped him revamp his resume, highlighting transferable skills from his various sales positions. We practiced interview questions over video calls, and I connected him with contacts in my professional network who might know about openings in his field. Derek also enrolled in an evening project management certification course, paying his share of the tuition with money from Amanda's new part-time position at a local clinic. His persistence paid off when he landed a position with a smaller insurance firm. The salary was lower than his previous job at $68,000 annually, but it offered stability and clear advancement opportunities. More importantly, Derek had earned this position entirely through his own efforts, with me providing only guidance and encouragement rather than financial rescue. The first few months of Derek's new employment were tentative for our relationship. I would visit occasionally, but I was careful not to bring expensive gifts for the children or offer unsolicited financial advice. Instead, I focused on rebuilding our connection as brothers. I taught Jake basic programming concepts during our visits, and Emma loved showing me her art projects. Amanda seemed relieved that the financial pressure had lifted and that Derek was regaining his confidence as a provider. As Derek's first Christmas at his new job approached, I received a phone call that I had been hoping for but was not sure would come. Derek formally invited me to join their family celebration, and his voice carried none of the awkwardness or obligation that had characterized our recent interactions. "I want you there," he said simply. "Not because we need anything from you, but because you are my brother, and I love you." The Christmas dinner was beautiful in its simplicity. Derek had prepared the turkey himself, proudly explaining the techniques he had learned from watching online tutorials. Amanda made her grandmother's stuffing recipe, and the children had created handmade decorations for the table. I brought a gift I had been working on for weeks, a photo album filled with pictures of our family from childhood through the present, documenting our journey together through both good times and struggles. As we sat around the table, sharing stories and laughing together, I realized that our relationship had not simply returned to its previous state, it had evolved into something healthier and more sustainable. Derek was no longer the desperate brother who needed rescuing, and I was no longer the enabler who confused financial support with love. We were two adult men who respected each other's independence while choosing to maintain our family bond. During a quiet moment after dinner, Derek pulled me aside and said, "Thank you for forcing me to grow up. I needed to learn that accepting help and taking advantage of someone are two completely different things." He explained that losing my support had been terrifying initially, but it had also motivated him to develop skills and confidence he never knew he possessed. I learned that real love sometimes requires letting people struggle and succeed on their own terms. For 3 years, I thought I was helping Derek by removing every financial obstacle from his path, but I was actually preventing him from developing the resilience and self-reliance he needed to truly thrive. When I stopped enabling his dependence, I gave him the opportunity to discover his own strength. Our relationship today is built on mutual respect rather than financial obligation. Derek has been promoted twice at his current job and recently qualified for a mortgage to buy their first home. When he calls me now, it is to share good news or ask for advice, not money. Jake and Emma still love their Uncle Bryson, but they also take pride in their father's accomplishments and their family's independence. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is let someone stand on their own, even when it hurts both of you in the short term. Real family is not about who gives the most money or who needs the most help. It is about who respects each other enough to grow, change, and become the best versions of themselves. What do you think about setting boundaries with family members who take your generosity for granted? Have you ever had to make the difficult choice between helping someone and enabling their dependence? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I read every single one and love hearing your perspectives on these complex family situations. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe for more real-life stories about relationships, family dynamics, and personal growth. Share this video with someone who might need to hear about the power of healthy boundaries. Thank you for listening to my story, and remember that sometimes walking away is not giving up. It is giving someone the space they need to find their own strength.